I'm Stephen Hunt, Steelworkers Director for Western Canada and the Northern Territories. District 3 represents over 60,000 workers in every sector of the economy, including over 25,000 who work in the forest industry. Nothing is more important than the health and safety of our members. We can negotiate good wages and benefits, but that means nothing if our members don't return home at the end of the day in the same shape as they went to work. Being a BC forest worker has been one of our country's most hazardous and lethal occupations. Over the past 20 years, an average of 25 workers are killed each year and nearly 100 are seriously injured in the province. In 2005, the BC forest industry killed 43 workers in traumatic accidents and another 6 died due to occupational diseases. Well over 100 were permanently disabled. Our union said enough is enough. And more important, we took action, conducting a full-fledged campaign to stop the killing. By carefully planning our campaign, clearly stating our objectives, and executing each phase, we have made significant progress in achieving many of our goals. I started out as a health and safety activist and have participated in many important safety initiatives, including the West Ray Mine Explosion Commission and the campaign for Bill C-45. But I can say that Stop the Killing has been one of the most rewarding campaigns I've ever participated in as a trade unionist.
We had the full participation of our forest industry local unions in BC and combined efforts of our officers and staff, our local union reps, and our rank-and-file activists to make the campaign successful. By conducting an aggressive campaign, using the commercial media, events in the communities, and an intense lobby in the Legislative Assembly of BC, we achieved many of our goals. And we also used the bargaining table to secure new, comprehensive health and safety language in forest industry collective agreements for the first time. Before our campaign began, both industry and government were blaming the workers for the rising death count. They called it the culture of risk-taking. But union members know that this is not the case. The truth is that workers are dying on the job because of a culture of desperation. They are forced to work longer shifts with less job security. In the fall of 2004, forest companies started imposing 12-hour shifts, taking advantage of a government-imposed collective agreement that gave them the unfettered right to impose longer, unnatural shifts as they pleased.
In the logging sector, companies contracted, subcontracted, and sub-subcontracted out jobs in a race to the bottom. Contracting out stripped workers of protections such as the crucial right to refuse unsafe work. Many loggers were forced to travel and work on more consecutive days for less pay. And many lost their jobs for good. Legislative changes to the provincial forest policies carved up logging crews as part of this race to the bottom. The government deregulated the industry, severing the connection between harvesting and processing, putting more log trucks on the highways, hauling longer distances, and sped up the harvesting of vast timber tracts infected by the mountain pine beetle. This is what our union and others called the culture of desperation. By June 2005, 21 forest workers have been killed. Yet the BC Labour Minister refused to take action. The minister would not even meet with us, and we knew we just couldn't sit back and wait for the government or the forest companies to clean up the industry. In December 2005, we held the BC Forest Fatality Summit, bringing together CEOs, government regulators, cabinet ministers, politicians, union reps, labor allies, and others. At the summit, we laid out the culture of desperation that had gripped our membership in the industry.
We say the culture of desperation is simply this. We see more and more contractors out in the bush, nobody taking responsibility for them. It used to be at one time when major forest companies maintained the forests and maintained the work, that everybody that worked in the forest industry came under their responsibility. There's been an increase and a steady downloading of responsibility. And we say that's effectively economic blackmail. When I talked about the right to refuse unsafe work that every single worker in this province has, and this country has, think of it. If you work at McDonald's, you have a right to refuse unsafe work, and that's a good thing. But if you're a contractor in the forest industry of British Columbia, if you're a logging truck driver, an independent owner-operator, How do you exercise your right to refuse unsafe work? How do you do that? Because I can tell you this, and it's well known, that if you exercise your right to refuse unsafe work, chances are you don't work the next day. You may not work on the next contract that's left. That's reality.
And steelworkers spoke to the issues and obstacles to safe workplaces that forest workers faced, including certified fallers, and the difference between union and non-union workplaces.
But unless there's someone out there that ensures that certification actually means every day you go to work, you have the ability to utilize that certification standard, that's fine. The last few people that have been killed in falling were certified fallers. And they were doing things that they knew better that they shouldn't have been doing, but they didn't have a lot of other choices because there was no one to complain to. And the only way they were going to make a living is go and do it.
Facts are that more than 2/3, I would venture to say 3/4 of the deaths are in the non-union sector. That points to the fact that unionized workers push for better safety programs. They do get in employers' face. But you know, when their jobs are contracted out, what happens is workers go into survival mode. And here we have, it really is a perfect storm when you have the regulations being cut, the enforcement being cut, we're contracting out all of this work. We shouldn't be surprised of the number of fatalities.
Most of all, the steelworkers put the government and industry on record, as they spelled out their stated commitments to forest workers.
Every time that you show us a problem in safety, every time you show us or refuse to do work because it's unsafe, we actually can fix a problem in our business that, yeah, it may cost us a little bit today, but we win on it tomorrow, we win on it the next day, all of next week, all of the next month, all of this year, and for years into the future, and we win every time. So that's the personal challenge that I'm taking on as a leader in our company. Thank you.
We're going to have to take, those of you who have mentioned we have to take a coordinated approach. I agree with that implicit. Safety is going to have to become paramount in ways that I am compelled to conclude it simply hasn't been. Because again, the numbers bear tribute to that fact.
In response to the Steelworkers campaign, WorkSafe BC, the Workers' Compensation Board, announced the hiring of more workplace inspection officers and support staff. WorkSafe also announced that it and the RCMP were working on joint investigation procedures to take on forest industry cases under Bill C-45. In January 2006, WorkSafe BC Chairman of the Board, Doug Enns, wrote a stern letter to employers, reminding them of their legal responsibilities. Later that month, the government announced it would hire a coroner for the forest industry. We got through to the Labour Minister. Some of the Stop the Killing campaign demands were being met, but our job was not over. In March 2006, the Steelworkers took the campaign to the BC Legislature. We continued with the basic elements of our campaign from the beginning. We demanded that the province take action to provide for a dedicated coroner for the forest industry, implementation committees to sign off and inquiry inquest recommendations, more WCB monitoring and enforcement, ensuring licensee responsibility for healthy and safe work practices, a dedicated prosecutor for Bill C-45 offenses, a legislated day of mourning, and an independent review of forest safety. Steelworker member lobbyists met with politicians of both parties. The NDP supported our campaign while the ruling Gordon Campbell Liberals resisted. And our lobby had made the direct connection between the health and safety of our members with political action.